Okay, hello and welcome to exercise 4, the endocrine system activity number 3. And activity 3 is actually only one part when as compared to activity 1, which was 4 parts, and activity 2, which was 2 parts. Activity 3 and 4 are actually only one part. So let's click on that. And the objective for activity 3, the objectives are to understand the terms hormone replacement therapy, follicle stimulating hormone, the estrogen, calcitonin, osteoporosis, overectomized, and the T-score. Okay, so let's begin. So this is a part of my introduction, and let's take the pre-lab quiz. The follicle stimulating hormone stimulates ovarian follicle development. Then estrogen is produced by the developing ovarian follicles. And calcitonin stimulates osteoclast activity, inhibits calcium uptake in the long bones. That's not true. It works against the development of osteoporosis. Which of the following statement is true? So osteoporosis is an increase in the density of porous long bones. That's not true. An untreated female T-score is anticipated to become more positive after menopause. So it will become less negative, but it will not become more positive. It will become less negative. The ovaries stop secreting estrogen after menopause. That's actually true. Submit that. Okay, so the first thing we do is we drag the syringe to the bottle of saline to fill the syringe with 1 milliliter of saline. Fill it with 1 milliliter of saline. I have 3 rats, a control rat, estrogen treated rat, and a calcitonin treated rat. Then what I will do is drag the syringe to the control rat to perform an intraperitoneal injection. And so here I injected it once. And then after that, I clean my syringe. Then I take the syringe, put it in the estrogen, take some estrogen and inject my estrogen treated rat, clean it, take it again, calcitonin, take 1 milliliter. We always take 1 milliliter when we're injecting. So that's 1 milliliter. So that's a 1 milliliter of saline, 1 milliliter of estrogen, and 1 milliliter of calcitonin. Here, the control for me, this is a negative control, meaning I give it something and I knew that it will be a placebo. It will give me no response. But a positive control, I will give it something that I know that it will give me a known outcome. It will give me an actual known predicted response. But a negative control, I will give it something, but it will give me nothing. It will give me a negative predicted response. Okay, so let's clean that. So we have 1 for each. So now we need to do every single day, every 24 hours, inject the rat. So set the clock phase to advance 24 hours. So that's the next day. So let's do the same thing again for the next day. Each rat must receive 7 injections over the course of the 7 days. So saline rat will have 7 injections of saline, 1 each day. And then the same day, the estrogen treated rat will have 1 milliliter of estrogen. Then the calcitonin will have 1 milliliter of calcitonin. Then we'll do another 24 hours. Then that's my second day, then a third day. So I got to do this for 7 days. So that's the third day. I did my saline, cleaned it. Then the estrogen, 1 milliliter estrogen, then clean it. Then another milliliter of calcitonin, give it to this rat, then clean it. Then we will have then we will have, that's 3 days. So now let's do the 4th day. Cleaned it. Sorry. So that's the 4th day. So now let's do the 5th day. So we're going to do this for 7 days. So here my independent variables are my estrogen and calcitonin. That's my negative control. And then my dependent variable is the bone, the vertebral bone density. So my T-score is going to be dependent on my, this is my hormonal therapy. My hormonal therapy is my independent variable, and the effect of it is actually my dependent variable, is what I'm measuring. So that's day number 5. Now let's do the day number 6. Okay. In day number 7, saline, and estrogen, calcitonin. So these are 7 injections. So for 7 consecutive days, I've been injecting each rat with its independent variable with 1 milliliters of each independent variable, except for the control group, it was saline, representing that I will inject a independent variable that will give me a negative outcome, or a null outcome. So it will not give me anything. I will not be able to detect any response. So it will be a negative control. A positive control, I'll give it something that I know it must give me that particular response. And if it doesn't, then I will say it failed the positive control. But this is actually a negative control. Okay, so for 7 days, we did that. Then, what effect will the saline injections have on the control of the rat's vertebral bone density? Does saline have any effect on bone density? Of course not. But the saline injections will not change. Okay, what effect will the estrogen injections have on the estrogen treated rats? So estrogen is very important to maintain vertebral bone density. That's why females after the menopause, where their ovaries are no longer secreting estrogen, they will be susceptible to osteoporosis. So obviously and then in the T-score, so the more negative, so how do we tell more negative from less negative? So we have the number line. If you go, let me see if I can find number line, number line, number line. So that's my number line. That's my number line. Okay, that's my number line. So the more I go in the left direction, the more negative I get. And the more I go in the right direction, the more positive I get. If I'm on the left side, if I move more to the negative, I am more negative. If I move to the right, I am less negative. But on the right side, the more I move to the right, I am more negative. And the more I move to the left and I'm still at the right side, then I am less positive. So the bone density, the T-score, the more negative you are, the better. The more negative you are, the better. The less negative you are, it means you are not optimally, your bone density is not as optimal as it is. But if you are in a positive range, then that means there's a pathological crisis. So what effect will estrogen injections have on the estrogen treated rats? So the estrogen injections will decrease the rat's vertebral bone density, indicated by a more negative T-score. Yes, the estrogen injections will not, my estrogen injections will not make by a making my T-score. We don't want a more negative. So more negative, that means we are on this side. So we are less negative. So the estrogen injections will decrease the rat's vertebral bone density. So that means it will improve things by indicating by an indicated less negative T-score. Okay, what effect will calcitonin have? Well, calcitonin injections will increase the rat vertebral bone density. So we want a less negative. So the calcitonin injections will decrease, no, they will increase. They will increase, the calcitonin injections will increase the rat's vertebral bone density. Less negative T-score. The same thing that we will see with the estrogen, but obviously calcitonin is more influential and more effective in bone density, in increasing the bone density. Okay, so now we want to measure, we want to find out. So the rat, if I take it like that, is going to move on the exam table. I'm not going to be able to perform an x-ray. So I have to anesthetize the rat. So I take my control and then scan it, and that's my T-score. It's negative 84. So that's the T-score of my rat. It's negative 80, negative 2.84 right here. Negative 2.84. Right here, negative 2.84, almost negative 3. Record data. Then anesthetize the second rat. Scan. Record data. So the estrogen treated rat gave me, compared to my control group, so the control group was a negative 2.84. Negative 2.84. That was my normal. The estrogen treated went actually up to minus 1.72. Minus 1.7. So it went farther. It went farther to the right. And then my calcitonin treated is minus 2.24. Minus 2.24. So that shows you that calcitonin is closer to my control, it's closer to my control group, and the estrogen is more effective, in the building the bone mass, because the more negative we are, the better will be our vertebral bone density. So we want to increase the rat's vertebral bone density. So the more negative we are, meaning the more we move to the left, the better. So this is my control group. My control group had a T-score of minus 2.84. Which one of the two treatments is closer to my control group? It is actually the calcitonin. So the calcitonin is more negative than the estrogen. So that shows you that calcitonin is more effective in building bone mass. So now let's complete. Okay, saline injections were used in this experiment to measure the effects of saline injections were used in this experiment to measure the effects of placebo. Yes, it's a placebo. In an overectomized, so we have removed the ovaries, rats used in this experiment, estrogen levels were elevated because of the loss of the negative feedback control. And the follicle stimulating hormone levels were reduced because of the loss of negative feedback. Actually, they should increase because there is no estrogen to feed back and inhibit their release. Estrogen levels were reduced because of the increased negative feedback caused by the injections. It's not true. Osteoporosis was evident prior to the injections of the estrogen. That's true because we remove the ovaries are no longer able to release estrogen, and that is detrimental to the overall bone mass. Injections of calcitonin into the overrectomized rat will inhibit osteoclast activity and stimulate calcium uptake and the buildup of long bones. That's true. As the rat's bone density increases, the X-ray scanning assay reports a less negative. The X-ray scanning assay reports a more negative T-score. So we want a more negative T-score. The more negative we are, the better. So that's why, you know, the calcitonin is able to provide us with a better and more negative T-score, which was from about minus 2.05, which is the calcitonin was about negative 2.24. That is more negative, closer to the most negative, which was control. And then the estrogen was also negative, but it is less negative when compared to calcitonin. Okay, we press submit. Then we have to answer a couple of questions. Why were overrectomized rats? Why were overrectomized rats used in this experiment? So we know that the ovaries produce for us the hormone, the essential hormone estrogen. And we know that estrogen is implicated, actually required in the stimulation of the bone growth. So without estrogen, the bone growth is going to be debilitated, and the rats will suffer from osteoporosis. And we see this with females when they reach menopause. The ovaries are no longer able to secrete estrogen. What effect did the administration of saline injections have on the control rat? So that was a negative control. And how well did the results compare? How well did the results compare with your prediction? So we know that the saline was a negative control. I add it, it's a placebo, I expect nothing. So the inclusion of the saline as a negative control is to ensure that the saline has no effect. So I answered correctly. The saline injections will not change the rat's vertebral bone density indicated by an unchanging T-score. Excellent. What effect did the administration of estrogen injections have on the estrogen-treated rats? And how well did the results compare with your prediction? So I know that the estrogen injection did increase the rat's vertebral bone density. It is as predicted, but it did not increase it as much as calcitonin. And that was proven because we have a less negative T-score. Then moving on. What effect did the administration of calcitonin injections have on the calcitonin treated rat? How well did the results compare with the prediction? So we know that the calcitonin injection, because calcitonin inhibits osteoclast and dumps calcium from the blood into the bones to build up the bones. So the calcium injections overall increase the rat's vertebral bone density as predicted and as indicated by the less negative T-score. So the less negative, the better. What are some health risks? What are some health risks that postmenopausal women who underwent menopause must consider when contemplating estrogen? So you know estrogen is very dangerous with cancer. It increases uterine cancer, overstimulation of these estrogen receptors, also breast cancer and blood clots. And that will conclude everything for us.